John on YouTube back again doing another episode for you guys, and Phillip Island has just finished yesterday. Today is Monday, and yeah, everything going well. So it was a really great weekend. It was fantastic. Only one safety car throughout the whole weekend. So race 9 kind of wasn't really that exciting. It felt like it took forever though, but race 10 there was a safety car in it, and it sort of felt like it went quicker, if that makes sense. Just without the safety car, it just felt like it took forever, and it was just that. But it was clean racing all weekend. It was really good. There wasn't that much, you know, crashing or whatever else. There were a few offs, there were a few pushes, a few bumps and bruises, but nothing really exciting. No one rolled the car like Greg Murphy or Bargwana or, you know, whoever else has rolled cars there before. But this, guys, is race 9 and 10 from Phillip Island, and race 9 was fantastic. Now, before I actually start on this, I will turn the camera around just for 1 second. Now, you remember last time, I got my watch on and it sort of just made a weird sound against the poles. So, what was the round that just happened? Not Phillip Island, obviously. Tassie. Okay, so you remember Tassie, how I didn't really talk as much, but the video ended up going for like 12 minutes because I was just blabbling on about shit that just kind of filled the time in. Yeah, you remember that one. So obviously I didn't get my iPad fixed, but I did find a solution, and it ended up being my computer. So, there it is there. My girlfriend's face is kind of in the backdrop there. Yeah, well, you guys have seen Hope. You don't need to see her like that, I guess. But, yeah, I do have all the information now on my computer, which is great because I was trying to figure out how the hell I'm going to do this. And I thought, you know what, the computer's there, I'll just go to and see what happens. But I'm hoping, because you guys are actually on the monitor right now, so I'm hoping you don't fall down. As long as Hope doesn't come in and get a bottle of drink, which is actually on the fridge, we're all sweet. But guys, we're not here to talk about how cool that is. We're here to talk about Phillip Island, and I will say Phillip Island was a fantastic weekend. It was really good. And race 9 started off really well. Whincup got in front of who was it, McLaughlin, and they were side by side for a couple of corners, and it kind of reminded me of you know, Adelaide a couple of years ago when he was driving for Volvo in that same year as well. They were side by side through the first couple of corners, and it was really good. No actual contact, but it was just kind of, you know, clean in a way. Lap 2 saw Caruso come into the pits, and he had a completely different strategy towards everyone else. I'm gonna breathe now. Courtney bump draft Scott Pye up the main straight and got in front of Tim Slade. Now, it was actually quite cool because Slady came out of turn 12 a little sideways, but and he was beside Scotty Pye, and he sort of was losing ground. Courtney was right behind, so Courtney just sort of, come on, hurry up, and they both ended up passing Slade. And also, that was lap 3, and Holsworth came into the pits as well. My man. Just a quick update with that as well. Holsworth had, I'm going to go here, front splitter, broken front splitter mounts all weekend. Throughout Friday, Saturday he didn't go too bad, but Sunday he had 2 in the matter of how many laps? Like the closing stages of the lap. So 3 all up, which was quite sad. But you know, that happens. Fabian Coulthard started last due to a what happened to him? I can't remember now, but he got penalised for something. Oh, that's right, yeah. His rear spoiler, his rear spoiler was at a certain degree, which was legal. So they kind of took away his time from qualifying, and he ended up starting from last place, but ended up moving up 10 spots within the first 4 laps. So that's really good. Scott Pye pitted in lap 7. Wasn't really much happening in lap 7, apart from Pye pitting. James Golding spun Simona Di Silvestro at turn 10. which ended in Golding getting a 15-second time penalty at the end of the race. No, sorry, 15-second pit lane stop and go kind of thing. And that sort of put him out of contention as well. Courtney Coulthard and Blanchard in the pits and all rejoined in the same way they went in. The first of the leaders at lap 14 came in. So Reynolds was the first to come in, followed by Kelly, Mostert, Waters, and Tander. Kelly was the only one that rejoined in front of someone. He actually got Reynolds in the pits. So that was actually quite interesting to get that. Lap 15 saw Shane Van Gisbergen and Lowndes and Percat in as well. I think the reason why Kelly got in so much, yeah, they actually said this. The reason why Kelly, I'll get it out in a second. The reason why Kelly got out so quickly was because they only put 45 litres of fuel in, and Reynolds did a full stop of 65. So they had less time and whatever else, obviously stopping for tyres and fuel. But yeah, Kelly ended up getting a bit of a advantage out of that, only putting 45 litres worth of fuel in, which was great. Where are we now? Lap 16. De Pasquale, Winterbottom, Heimgardner and Stenaway in with Whincup and McLaughlin at the start of lap 17. So obviously the leaders, McLaughlin and Whincup. I've got to stop looking at the screen. I had a bad habit of doing that last year and looking at the screen, and I didn't actually engage into the camera, so I'm going to try. So yeah, Whincup and McLaughlin obviously leading. They came in at lap 17, but the other boys came up at the end of lap 16. Oh god, excuse me. Ow. So lap 18, yeah, that happened, and then lap 18, Golding was the last to pit, so he was obviously leading for a bit, and then that gave Whincup and McLaughlin the lead again in the race. Lap 30, so nothing really happened like in the 12 or 13 laps there, but Whincup and McLaughlin both in the pits, same as before. Whincup rejoined in front of McLaughlin and battle of the pit crews. Now that was a very, very intriguing spot. That also relegated, and I'll get to this in a second. That also relegated Jamie Whincup to 14th place after. But reason for that was, okay, so you know Shell Helix, the Shell V-Power, Shell Helix. God, we're going back to 2002 here. So Shell are obviously at the front garage now, or the very last garage, and Red Bull are right behind. Obviously, who was leading at the time? Whincup was leading, and he went in first, obviously, and then followed by Scotty. And it was really, really intense. It was like, who's going to get out first? Who's going to get out first? We don't know. They dropped Whincup. He sort of took off, and then they immediately dropped McLaughlin. Now, I actually spoke to Hope about this the day after, because I didn't know until Sunday that they actually penalised Whincup for this. Now, what happened was, Whincup was cruising along, I'm going to try and use these as a guide, like the virtual pole there, even though it's not part of the bed frame. But they're cruising along, and then Scotty came out about, you know, I won't use hands, fuck that. Scotty came out around the front, like the passenger door kind of thing, and then had to relinquish the speed and then obviously get behind Whincup and take off. The reason why Whincup got penalised for this, now I didn't realise that it was actually a speeding penalty until after I seen the onboard footage, that there's 3 lines at Phillip Island that separate the everything. There's a line that has, I think it's like the start-finish line, I think, that runs across the pit exit, and then there's the speed limiter for the exit of pit lane line, so you can obviously go onto ridiculous speeds. And then there's another one. I'm not sure what the other one is. Might be the timing media post one or whatever the hell it is. But when Scotty came out, there's a witch's hat right at the end of the Shell V-Power's garage. So he had to obviously relinquish that spot so he could get in, because he would have hit the witch's hat and then obviously got a penalty for that. But Whincup ended up taking off at the witch's hat and not the line that was probably 2 or 3 meters in front of him that made the exit, like the exit of pit lane to go. So he got penalised for that, and I was just like, wow, that's really interesting to know, because I obviously thought that he might have just blocked Scotty to not get out, and I thought that was the penalty, and I was just like, why would they do that? That's just weird. And then obviously it was because of Whincup taking off before the actual pit lane speed doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, that was a really big turning point, and obviously at the end of the race, Jamie Whincup didn't obviously finish. What did he finish? Finished second. So he got from second to 14th place. It was roughly around 14. He got, what was the? It was like, I can't remember I can't actually remember how big the time penalty was. I'm pretty sure it was like, oh jeez. No, I can't remember. It was beyond 15 seconds. I know that because it was a very long race, and there was a couple of people. Actually, no, there was no one that crashed, and there was only 2 or 3. No, not even that. I think there was only 1 or 2 cars that were a lap down. So everyone was on the lead lap pretty much when the race was finished. So yeah, it was very interesting. I'm not sure how many how big the time penalty was, but yeah, he ended up getting relinquished back to 14th place, and yeah, that ended up being for Whincup. So, and again, between lap 30 and 41, nothing really happened, but McLaughlin ended up passing Whincup at turn 2 for the lead, and that was actually really good. It kind of took back as well to where the first couple laps were. They were just side by side, and it was just really great. Lap 46, Courtney ran into Stanaway and actually pushed him wide at turn 12. And there was great car control by Richie Stanaway. He just kind of side by side, and he just sort of nudged him out a little bit. Didn't actually hit him, but he just sort of lost it a little bit, and ended up spearing off at turn 12. End of the gravel trap, but ended up regathering. Simona and Todd Hazelwood having a really good battle for 23rd position. And it actually went on for a couple of laps. And the cameras actually stayed on it, which was surprising because, you know, being towards the end of the race, they usually focus on the leaders. But yeah, that was actually really good. It was very clean, obviously, no actual contact, but Todd was giving Simona a little bit of a hurry up, please. So yeah, that was actually a really good one. And with Simona's car seems to just be really weird during races. If you guys haven't seen lately, like, I don't obviously post, like, if you guys obviously follow the Instagram as well, Supercars with Shane, you obviously get to see the qualifying results apart from the race results. Now, Simona's finishing at, like, God, like 15, like, she's really improved since last year, but just her race pace ends up just dropping immaculately. It's just really sad to see her go from so well in practice and quali, like especially in Tasmania. She was in 11th spot for practice 2, pretty sure. She actually missed out on that new qualifying format at the sprint rounds. But yeah, her race pace is just not working at all for her this year. But anyway, continue. Lap 51, Shane Van Gisbergen lets Lowndes pass with a power steering issue with Shane Van Gisbergen's car. Now, this also was very insane. Oh god, my fingers. I'm sorry. This also was actually quite good to see that car racing is very physical. It is very physical. Motorsport in general is just very physical, and people who don't take it as a sport, well, you're clearly wrong. You try and drive a car that weighs nearly 1.5 tons, nearly 2 tons, and taking corners at 200 kilometers plus with no power steering. It's not fun. And hats off to Gizzy. He drove. Now, I did say lap 51 that he let Lowndes pass, but he had this issue, I think, at lap 20. So he'd been racing for like 30 odd laps or 40 laps with cramps and sore arms and this, that, and everything. It was just ungodly. I can only imagine. Now, it kind of takes me back as well to, I think it was like, oh god, when was it? 91, when Ayrton Senna won the race at Brazil at his home track, and ended up passing out at the end of the race because he couldn't physically, move, and he was just so cramped up and whatever else and whatever. But that kind of reminded me of that. It just gives, and motorsport is a very physical thing. It is. Larko was describing of how hard it is to take a corner at 200 kilometers an hour or whatever, and not, feel it. What it is that if you're taking a corner, say if you're taking a corner at 200 kilometers an hour, you're getting about, I think it was like 2.5 Gs or 3 Gs nearly. Now, that might not seem a lot, but hear me out. That's the equivalent of your car being on the edge of a cliff, you being on the edge of your car being on the edge of the cliff, and two V8 Supercars pulling you down with Russell Ingall. That's how Larko described it. It is a lot of weight. It is a lot of weight to take a corner, especially like turn 2, which is roughly around 150, 160 k's an hour. To take that at that speed is just remarkable. It is absolutely insane, and to not feel it is just crazy. And for him to do that for 30 to 40 odd laps is just, oh god. And you could see, like, during the race, he was like, down the main straight, he was just doing these and, relaxing and whatever else, but then obviously going into turn 1 at 215 k an hour, it's just like, god, how the hell can he hold on to that? But, hats off to him. It is a very demanding sport, not only financially, but physically and mentally. But, that was really, really good. But, Lowndes, now was after Rick Kelly, who was in 3rd place, and it was only a 2-second gap between them two with 5 laps to go. With 3 laps left, McLaughlin held a 1-second lead over Whincup, and behind them, Kelly also held a 1-second lead behind Lowndes, heading for a great finish. Now, it was a really, really great finish. Between Whincup and Kelly, it was like 6 or so seconds, so there was no way Kelly was going to get through. But, that really happened. And then, obviously, McLaughlin, I'm going to show the results here. Bang! McLaughlin ended up winning race 9 in front of... Now, I know it says Whincup there, but again, obviously it doesn't. He obviously got relegated, but Kelly came 2nd, and Shane Van Gisbergen came 3rd. Now, the reason why that is like that for... Lowndes obviously had good pace when he overtook Gizzy at lap 51, and team orders came over the radio at the last lap saying that Lowndes, you might as well just let Gizzy through, and that was kind of weird. It was kind of weird because Lowndes had pace, he had a lot of pace, and team orders obviously allowed him to go through Giz. And then, obviously, team orders allowed Shane Van Gisbergen to go through Lowndes. So, it was kind of weird because Lowndes had more of a fighting chance than what Gizzy did. But, I can't really say much about that. But, it was very, very frustrating for Lowndes. He was, after the race, he was very, very annoyed. And sadly enough, he ended up getting relegated back to 4th. But, it was a very, very great race after all. It was fantastic, and big shout out to Rick Kelly, not only getting on the podium, but celebrating his 500th V8 Supercar race. That's it pretty much. So yeah, he celebrated his 500th, and obviously in race 10 it was 5:01 for him. But guys, that is race 9 from PHILLIP Island. I'm going to stop it right there. I'm going to go grab myself a drink, and then I'll come back for race 10. What the fuck is my drink? Oh, I left it out there. Jesus Christ.
2,000 years later.
Alright guys, I'm finally back. That was just not fun at all. My drink ended up not getting poured for some weird ass reason. So, we're here again. Actually, I am forgetting something. No, it's not. It's over there. It's all good. But yeah, race 10, guys. Race 10 at Phillip Island. It was cough-worthy. Very cough-worthy. No, it was a very, very good race. Obviously, our first safety car of the weekend, like I said before. It was a clean start by everybody. Everybody had a really, 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 really good start. By lap 7, Courtney, sadly enough, had a transaxle issue, and that is what ended up bringing out the safety car. Now, the reason why it brought out the safety car is because he stopped right at the edge of the start of pit entry. So obviously he was blocking pit entry, and they were just like, yeah, we'd have to bring him in. So Fabian Coulthard, Shane Van Gisbergen, Chas Mostert, Andre Heidengardner, Scott Pye, Cam Waters, Nick Perker, and Tim Blanchard all pitted under the safety car, as the safety car came out. And then by lap 8, while the safety car was still on, McLaughlin, Reynolds, Kelly, Whincup, Caruso, Di Pasquale, Tanda, Lowndes, Holsworth, Golding, Hazelwood, LeBrock, Will Davison, and Richie Stanaway all followed in the pits. That got really weird. Maybe if I sing all the drivers' names, I might get more views. I'm kidding. This got nothing to do with views. But no, yeah, all those drivers, I'm not repeating them. All those drivers ended up coming in, and then the green flag came back out at lap 10. Which at that lap as well, Andre Heidengardner and to Garth Tander. I always think that when I put Tander's name up there, up on the screen, I always think that Tander is part of his first name, so I'm thinking Taff Tander or some shit. But Garth Tander, they were side by side at turn 12, and it was very, 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 very good, clean racing. It was a couple of bumps, but nothing too major. Lap 27 saw McLaughlin in the pits with Mostert, Whincup, Lowndes, and Wooters. Which was quite surprising actually, but also very not, and I'll give you the reason why. They also pitted on lap 8, obviously, and they came in at lap 27, so that's 20 odd laps in. But with strategy and all that stuff, they obviously had to have the 140 litre requirement, so pitting early might have helped. Also, they had the safety car as well, but it obviously came out a little bit earlier than everyone expects, and so they obviously stuck to their original plan. Pitted on lap 8, and then obviously back on lap 28 anyway. But obviously, if the safety car didn't come out, they would have probably pitted on lap 27. Sorry, I've got a bit of twister in my mouth. We just had KFC for dinner. But yeah, they probably would have pitted on lap 27 anyway, regardless if the safety car came out. It's just to put those new fresh tyres on and probably put just a little bit more fuel in as well. But lap 28 saw Reynolds, Pye, Tanner, and LeBrock in the pits. And by lap 30, Rick Kelly was leading by this stage too. And by lap 30, Reynolds had taken McLaughlin, and Kelly was in the pits with both Reynolds and McLaughlin getting the undercut on Kelly. Now, he actually waited a little bit, obviously. As you can tell, it was probably like 3 or so laps. And I'll show you a little bit of a footage here as McLaughlin and Reynolds come down through Leaky Heights and whatever else into turn 10, turn 11, turn 12. Kelly obviously being sort of in the middle of the pit lane. I think I've been asked before, where do you reckon the best part of the pit lane would be? Now, back in I'll just keep leaving. I don't know if the video's still going because I don't know how long it is. But back in like 2002 and like or the early 2000s, being the first garage was the best thing because you'd be in and you'd go straight out, and then you'd watch all the other drivers go through. And now it's the other way around. Ended up being at the back of the garage, or the very, very far end of the garage is now the best part. And I just find that really, really awkward. But Nissan Motorsport seems to be in the middle, and I think being in the middle is probably the worst spot to be because, you know, at the front you can see all the other cars. That's a bonus. You know, you can see all the other cars and whatever else, and you know, you can drop at any time and still be in front or regain in front, or you know, maybe lose just a spot or whatever. Being at the back, that kind of an advantage, but kind of not, because if you're leading, say you're leading by 10 seconds, okay, and you pit, and then a safety car comes out. A hypothetical scenario, right? And the safety car comes out. You're already in the pits, so you're already 10 seconds ahead of everyone in the pits. And then you get this train of cars that are coming in. You're just about to finish, right? And so just say, for instance, you've dropped your air jacks and whatever else, but you're getting these train of cars coming through. You just got to sit there. You just got to sit there and sit there and sit there and sit there and sit there. It's like, But the advantage is you're the first one in, and you'll be obviously the first one out. That might be a possibility as well. So maybe, but being in the middle is kind of difficult. It is really difficult. I find it really difficult because that scenario, for instance, that's a really bad possibility. There's a lot more double stacking as well in front, and also sometimes behind as well, depending on where, if you're obviously behind, if you're obviously in front of the garage, so this is you, this is the middle here, this is your garage, and say Lucas Dunborough Motorsport, or Preston Hire, to be honest, and they're double stacking. You've got to wait for them, and then you can go, and whatever else. I find it to be a little more harder in the middle than anything, because it is just, this sounds really weird, harder in the middle, yeah, I'm sure. But no, I find it to be a lot harder in the middle because you got a hell of a lot more going on. You focus on what's happening in front of you, and you focus on what's happening behind you. So if you get dropped too early, then you got to, focus about how long the guys in front of you have been, and it's just like a massive anxiety and stress levels. I mean, you can just imagine how bad it would be. But yeah, being in the middle, I reckon, would be the worst spot to have your pit lane, or pit bay at least. But where are we now? Oh god, David Reynolds pitted, I think, a couple of laps after. Yes, he did, because it says it here. Yeah, and that was side by side. Again, here's another video for it. They were side by side for a little bit. Oh, not side by side, but Reynolds got in front of Whincup. Whincup. God, how do you screw that up? McLaughlin. He got in front of McLaughlin, and they were bumpy and grindy. It wasn't really bumpy, but it was really, really good action. It was good to see David Reynolds with that aggression. That's what, Mark Scaife and Russell Ingall and everyone in the pit lane has been asking for. Davey needs to fire up a little bit, and it was good. And his post-race interview with Russell Ingall, he's like, yes, you did good, like all this good stuff, and it was really, really good. But McLaughlin ended up taking Reynolds in the end, which was sad enough because Reynolds looked very, 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 very pacey towards that. I'm using the mouse, I know, how creepy. Lap 36, do I really have to talk about this? Yes, I do. Unfortunately, now, I know everyone's gonna, leave a comment, pray for Lee, but Lee Holsworth in the garage with a broken front splitter mount and rejoined back on the track at lap 41, and then comes back in the pits at lap 48 to retire from the race. Now, I'm pretty sure that he lost 2 front splitter mounts in the same race. So, unfortunate for him, and I know everyone's upset. I know it is such a bad thing for Lee to retire from a race. Yeah. The funny thing is, Charisse, you guys met her last year at Eastern Creek. She's obviously a James Courtney and Scott Pipe fan, more of a James Courtney fan than anything. But it was weird. It was really, really weird to see that James and Lee were in the pits, retired, and I messaged Charisse during the race and I go, I don't like this. And she's like, yeah, neither do I. And both of our drivers are in the pits, and I was just like, oh god, this is not working. But we'll get back to the topic. The couple laps left. Shane Van Gisbergen pushed Lanzi off at turn 12. Now Shane obviously cleared the throttle and let Lanzi go through, but it got very, very, very serious with Lanzi coming on the radio and saying, if he stopped hitting me, maybe I'd let him pass. Now it was pretty bad, like, obviously this was going on for a couple of either laps or corners or whatever. I should have went corners before laps, because obviously that's longer. But anyway, you guys get the point. He was really, really pissed. And coming out of turn 10, well, it all started up at Lukey Guy's, from what I know anyway. He was bumping Lanzi and then heading into turn 10, the exit, Lowndesy must have been struggling for grip a little bit, so Gizzy's trying to push him harder, and then ended up pushing him a little bit wide. It was like in between turn 11 and turn 12, so if anything it would be turn 11-12. And yeah, I just created a new word, hashtag 1112. I don't know how the fuck I'm going to put that in a hashtag, but anyway. And then yeah, he rejoined at turn 12, and then that's when the whole dispute of if he'd stopped hitting me, maybe I'd let him pass, came along. And yeah, Gizzy was a little bit upset about that, but you know, you get that. Lowndesy a fighter, guys. He's a very, very good fighter. But that ended up being the end of race 10. I'm going to whack the results up right now. McLaughlin wins in front of Reynolds, and Rick Kelly, for the second day in a row, ended up getting a podium. Now, I'm not going to leave him up for long because I'm not going to leave it up for too long because I obviously don't know who came 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, blah, 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 blah. So, guys, so much better than the Tasmanian Super Sprint. I know, there was a lot more to talk about, and obviously I was a little bit more prepared this week. I ended up making the decision on Friday to go, maybe I'll just use my computer. Don't. I'll use my computer. I'm using Microsoft Word at the moment on an Apple product. How good's that? So, yeah, it was really, really, really good. But I'd just like to give honourable mention to, who was it? David Reynolds, who at the end of the race at the press conference, there was McLaughlin, Reynolds, and Kelly, all at the press conference, and Reynolds said in regards to something, they're all saying something, and then Reynolds turns around and goes, it's all the same, you know, everyone in front of me cheats, and everyone behind me can't drive for shit. And then McLaughlin sort of went, so I'm cheating. And then Davey was like, well... So then they all burst laughing. And then Kelly, oh my god, Rick Kelly was just the funniest. He's like, hey, I can't drive for shit down here. It was just hilarious. It was so, so funny. If you guys didn't see it, and if you've got Facebook as well, head over to the Supercars app and have a look at what it said, because it was just hilarious and I really, really enjoyed it. But guys, that is race 9 and 10 from Phillip Island, round 4. It was really, really good. I really, really enjoyed it. It was great racing all weekend. Guys, hit that subscribe button, like the video, dislike it if you want as well, I don't know. Share it around, get the information out there, and guys, I shall see you all in 2 weeks with Perp Super Sprint. Have fun, and peace out.